New Zealand is renowned internationally for its diverse multicultural society. It is a wonderful thing. However, within this society exists a hybridity of culture between a person's country of residence and their family's cultural background. Unfortunately, these two could generate intercultural communicative conflict for the individuals who experience this. Through this video, we would like to introduce the three notable forms that these issues take. First, the confusion of cultural identity. Second, the experience of the clash of cultures. And third, the confrontation of stereotypes and misconceptions. These points collectively form a barrier in intercultural communicative competence, which prevents understanding between the diverse population of New Zealand today. Here is a quick exercise for you. Which of the three following women do you think is New Zealand born? Lena, Louise, or Sophie? Confusion of cultural identity.
An example of this occurred when Louise visited the gym to find herself a new personal trainer. After some online research, Louise found that there are 3 available personal trainers at that gym. When she goes in, the receptionist recommends a Chinese man as the only personal trainer and hands Louise his business card, containing all his details in Chinese. She then asks Louise, slowly and loudly, "Do you speak Chinese? Because our personal trainer here hardly speaks any English." When we look deeper into this, the receptionist applies her preconceived idea that Louise looks like a member of the out group and therefore cannot speak any English. She also assumes that Louise can speak Chinese. These preconceptions rule above the real facts, such as that English is Louise's first language and that she is well accustomed to New Zealand culture. In this, one can see that the receptionist lacked skills in the effective component of the intercultural communication competence model. Immediately, the receptionist avoided communicating with Louise and passed her on to a co-worker who she thought would be able to communicate better with Louise in Chinese. This shows that the receptionist had an unwillingness to communicate what she thought interculturally due to perceived differences. These avoidance tendencies lead to less attempts in intercultural communication with people and can cause people like Louise, who do not look like traditional New Zealanders, to feel perpetuated. In this instance, Louise accommodated to her interlocutor by not confronting this offence, because she did not want to start off her session on the wrong foot. However, the communication breakdown discouraged Louise from interacting with that receptionist again. This encounter also made Louise feel confused about her cultural identity, as although she may feel a belonging to a certain New Zealand culture, others send the verbal and non-verbal cues that imply Louise is a part of the out group. Encounters like this are common for people like Louise, who often feel patronized and a need to prove their Kiwiness. As a result, some immigrants, children of immigrants, and/or biracial people may choose to reject their minority culture by not speaking the language, nor participating in cultural events that are associated with not being a New Zealander. A popular name that has arisen for Asian New Zealanders specifically is the act of being a banana, in which an individual appears Asian on the outside but may feel Pākehā on the inside. Unfortunately, this refusal of a certain cultural identity can lead to issues in their ICC skills, such as sensing verbal and non-verbal messages when communicating with their family or family friends in the ethnic language. These skills are a part of the psychomotor element on the model of intercultural communication competence. Hence, our social identity theory in New Zealand can influence how we send verbal and non-verbal cues to seemingly foreign people. These cues may subconsciously exclude certain ethnic groups from interacting successfully with people who are Pākehā or Māori.
Experiencing a clash of cultures. This is a common conflict which bicultural people, especially the Asian New Zealander demographic, face. This is a push and pull mechanism of these two cultures and the values, codes, and behaviors associated with these, causing friction internally for the person. Balancing these two different cultures becomes a very difficult act, especially when these two cultures have values and expectations which conflict. The OECD, which is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, released a research paper labeled The Economic and Social Outcomes of Children of Migrants. The outcomes of this was that the main difference between children of native borns and children of migrants is that there is a feeling of not being connected or not belonging to New Zealand for those. This was especially reflected within the Asian New Zealanders. Part of the reason behind this could be the struggle of trying to balance two cultures. These are labeled C1, which is the first culture, and C2, which is the second culture. There is, in fact, a third culture, which is labeled as the third place. This is proposed as a metaphor for issuing other dualities on which language education is based. And third culture, C3, does not propose to eliminate these dichotomies, but is a symbolic place, always subject to change and to the tension and even conflicts that come from being in between, according to researcher Claire Cramsch. As we see in this example, student Louise Jiang is feeling disappointed about her traditional Asian lunch. This is her conforming to one of her cultures. Although this is causing some internal conflict and friction for her because she wishes to adopt the typical New Zealand lunch and feels somewhat left out, making her a member of the out-group, despite her in fact being a member of the New Zealand in-group.
Stereotypes and misconceptions.
Due to their easily distinguishable ethnic backgrounds, languages, and features, Asian New Zealanders often find themselves identifying in the out-group of a situation, being separated from the in-group of Western New Zealanders despite having grown up in the same society. When Lena's teacher hands her a pair of chopsticks, Lena is placed in the out-group among all the other students that were given forks. Stereotypes and misconceptions are usually a result of a person's preconception of a culture and the values associated with it. The actions of Lena's teachers and classmates can be linked to the knowledge dimension of the model of intercultural competence, as their lack of wider knowledge about Lena's culture has led to a rift in their interaction. Another thing to note is that the difference in status and power of social groups in a society can give way to offensive slurs aimed at certain groups in relation to their position in this hierarchy. Situational features come into play, as the simpler and worse an outgroup is viewed in a society, the more negative consequences there are for those who hold that group membership. In other words, Asians such as Lena, who come from countries with a lower economic status, may experience more misconceptions and stereotypes when communicating interculturally due to the in-group's members' perceptions of being above them in the hierarchy. Those who possess narrow-minded, simplistic, and rigid cognitive systems are the most likely to resort to gross stereotyping when engaging in intercultural communication. Lena's classmates hold an ethnocentric perception, which can be defined as holding your own group's values and behaviors as central and using your own group's standards to measure that of other groups. Strong ethnocentrism between groups could lead to misconceptions, as different mannerisms and cultures may seem unnatural and wrong, when really it is just different. Being subject to ethnic stereotypes due to the other party's lack of knowledge on their culture, many Asian New Zealanders like Lena are driven to the point of either internalizing the stereotypes said about them, laughing the stereotypes off, and or simply ignoring the comments made. Drawing from the affective component of the model of intercultural competence, we can understand through the approach avoidance category that the impact of stereotypes and slurs could lead to uncertainty with how to respond to such comments, and often causes heightened anxiety, leading to decreasing incentives to engage in intercultural communications.
From this video, we've hoped that you understand failing to recognize that cultures are no longer binary due to globalization. To close, we'd like you to bring back to the question earlier. Which of these three women do you think looks like a real New Zealander? The answer is all.